Your roadmap to the latest in auto. Welcome to Highway Herald. On May 29, 2025, GM's plants fell silent as a shareholder letter revealed Trump's auto tariff regime would cost the company $4 to $5 billion in 2025. What followed wasn't an outright shutdown, but a rolling crisis. Shift cuts, layoffs, and supplier closures from Detroit to Ontario, even South Korean ports. Experts warn this could threaten 50,000 jobs as Detroit's assembly lines falter, and the White House doubles down. Let's dig into how these tariffs became the billion-dollar wedge that reshaped the entire playing field. Number 6. Tariffs. The billion-dollar wedge reimagined. Tariffs were promoted as a silver bullet. Inflate the cost of foreign parts, pull factories back home, and supercharge the Rust Belt. But the reality proved far harsher. On April 3, 2025, the White House imposed a 25% duty on every imported vehicle, and a few weeks later, extended the same surcharge to every imported component. GM's finance team panicked. CEO Mary Barra warned shareholders the new rules would wipe out $4 to $5 billion in 2025 profits, effectively gutting the Ultium battery R&D fund. A tweak to the executive order on April 29th offered a token 3% relief if final assembly happened in the US, but it barely dented the pain. Most GM models still rely on 40% or more imported content, so nearly every Silverado, Equinox, and Escalade rolling out of Midwestern plants felt the full sting of these tariffs. But how did this tariff storm play out in the factories themselves? Number 5. Where production actually ground to a halt. The headlines crying GM shuts down nationwide might be an overstatement, but for the workers in steel-toed boots, the silence was all too real. Trouble first hit on April 11th in Detroit when Factory Zero's weld guns fell silent, sending 200 skilled workers packing. Management blamed EV demand, but workers knew tariffs were the real villain. 2 weeks later, 1,200 workers at Ontario's Kami plant were told to stay home, with Canadian officials bluntly blaming tariff-driven U.S. fleet order collapses. On May 2nd, Oshawa's overnight shift was axed, wiping out 700 jobs. The ripple didn't stop there. Seatmaker Adient shuttered 2 Tennessee plants after losing a Cadillac contract, erasing 400 union jobs. GM called it elastic idling, but local diners, parts haulers, and tool shops saw the fallout instantly. Wall Street slashed GM's earnings outlook by 18% as shares tumbled, with up to 50,000 jobs hanging in the balance. These deep cuts set the stage for GM's next challenge: how its electric ambitions are colliding with hard economic realities. Number 4. America's EV gamble hits a cold front. For 2 years, GM has claimed to be the tip of the spear in America's EV surge. But now, 3 key dominoes have fallen. First, the $7,500 EV tax credit was scrapped, gutting the biggest buyer incentive. Second, Congress froze funding for national charging infrastructure, citing tariff politics. Third, the imported minerals critical for GM's batteries are now hit by the same tariffs designed to reshore them, ironically driving up Ultium battery costs. At Factory Zero, once booming Silverado EV pickups now gather dust. GM's data shows EV interest has plunged, with conversion rates halved. 0% financing offers couldn't offset rising insurance and electricity costs. CFO Paul Jacobson says Ultium trucks need 100,000 sales to break even. Analysts see only 65,000 in 2025. Each unsold EV locks up $45,000 while battery packs degrade. GM's response? Quiet throttling, waiting for 2026's LFP battery shift to break the stalemate. Before we dive deeper, take a moment to subscribe to Highway Herald and stay plugged in for all our updates on this evolving drama. Now let's see how these economic forces are shaking up the workers and unions. Number 3. Workers, unions, and the politics of nationalism reimagined. Detroit's shop floors have always been divided by badge loyalty, but now tariffs are splitting them further, pitting political allegiance against the brutal reality of shrinking paychecks. UAW's Sean Foyne surprisingly backed Trump's import duties as a defense of American jobs, while Canada's Lana Payne slammed GM's Oshawa cuts as reckless pandering to Washington. Even workers in Tennessee who voted for Trump are grumbling, cut the damn tariffs. Unions walk a tightrope, support tariffs and betray global colleagues, oppose them and be branded unpatriotic. Meanwhile, hourly workers feel the pain of elastic idling. Sub-pay cushions them slightly, but overtime disappears, benefits reset, and anxiety mounts. Lordstown veterans see eerie echoes of past closures. Amid this, Trump shrugs off the drama at rallies with vague, future incentives promises. Both unions scramble for real strategies as cross-border alliances gain traction, showing these nationalist divides may finally be wearing thin. As worker tensions grow, the impact on the global supply chain is becoming impossible to ignore. Number 2. Ripple effects, Stellantis, Volvo, Hyundai, GM Korea revisited. GM might be the poster child of this crisis, but the tremors are shaking the entire automotive world. Stellantis Windsor, Canada's last minivan plant, is caught in a brutal cycle of stops and starts, already costing 900 jobs at Indiana and Michigan stamping shops. Midwest dealers are stuck with unsold Chrysler Pacificas, yet prices keep rising due to tariff-bloated Chinese parts. Heavy trucks aren't spared. Volvo Group North America is furloughing up to 1,000 workers across Pennsylvania and Virginia as fleet buyers balk at rigs that now top $180,000. Overseas, GM Korea's survival hangs in the balance, with 90% of its output headed to the US and now slammed by tariffs. South Korea fears a repeat of GM's Australian exit, while Hyundai and Kia scramble to move production stateside by 2027. Supply chains are stressed too. Just one miscoated piston recently cost an Ontario supplier $1.2 million. With the shockwaves clear, the final question looms. Can GM's plants find a way back online? Number 1. Can the line restart, and when? Inside GM's Renton headquarters, planners are sketching out 3 potential paths to recovery, each one critical for those silent assembly robots. In the best-case scenario, stability returns by late June. Brazilian wiring harnesses clear customs, Mexican engines roll in, and Silverado output ramps up in Fort Wayne and Oshawa. Detroit's EV lines would remain throttled, but meet a modest target of 65,000 Ultium trucks. Margins would be razor-thin, but positive. The middle ground scenario is bleaker. July sees new tariffs on Japanese and Korean electronics, spiking semiconductor costs and turning infotainment modules into the next choke point. Barra's plea for an EV carve-out dies in Washington's election year gridlock, while Wall Street starts to whisper about credit downgrades. The worst scenario? Beijing retaliates with rare earth quotas, and GM's North American plants slide into indefinite hibernation. Morale sinks each time a restart date slips. Verdict: strategy or self-inflicted stall? Tariffs were billed as a shortcut to revive American factories, but instead, they've revealed just how vulnerable global supply chains truly are. GM isn't abandoning American industry, it's grappling with new rules and tough economic realities. Those quiet robots in Oshawa and Detroit aren't signs of engineering failure. They're a testament to how policy shocks can rattle even the biggest players. If demand rebounds, GM could bounce back fast. But if interest wanes, those silent lines might become a cautionary tale. What's your take? Was this bold leadership or a risky overreach? Can GM's engineering muscle weather these policy storms? Or do tariffs prove that trade walls alone can't build the future? Share your thoughts and personal experiences in the comments. We'd love to hear your perspective. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to subscribe to Highway Herald and turn on notifications for your next fix of the automotive world. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. You can now check out any of the videos on the screen. There's more exciting and informative content waiting for you.